the early 20th century, the small, predominantly African-American town of Rosewood, Florida, became the backdrop for one of the most horrific events in American history. The Rosewood Massacre, which occurred in 1923, was a tragedy that lay hidden in the shadows of history for decades, only to resurface in the 1980s. Originally settled in 1845 by both black and white residents, Rosewood, like many communities in the South, succumbed to the insidious grip of segregation enforced by black codes and Jim Crow laws. By the 1920s, Rosewood's population of around 200 consisted entirely of black citizens, except for a single white family operating the town's general store. The fuse that ignited the Rosewood Massacre was a fateful day in 1923, when Fannie Taylor, a resident of nearby Sumner, claimed she had been assaulted by a black man. Though she specified she hadn't been raped, her husband, James Taylor, gathered an angry white mob, including members of the Ku Klux Klan, to hunt down the alleged culprit. The mob focused their search on a black prisoner, Jesse Hunter, who had escaped from a chain gang. Innocent lives in Rosewood began to unravel. Aaron Carrier, the nephew of a laundry worker for the Taylors, was brutally attacked. Sam Carter, a local blacksmith, was tortured and shot when he failed to produce Hunter. The violence was escalating. The situation reached a horrifying climax when a mob surrounded the home of Sarah Carrier. In the ensuing confrontation, Sarah was fatally shot, along with her son Sylvester, as white attackers surrounded the house and a violent standoff persisted. News of the Carrier house standoff spread, fueling the flames of violence. White mobs, believing in a false narrative of a race war, descended upon Rosewood. Churches were burned, houses were set ablaze, and the innocent residents were shot as they tried to escape. Some Rosewood citizens fled to the nearby swamps for safety, where they remained hidden, while others found shelter with sympathetic white families. The violence continued to escalate. In the midst of this chaos, Florida Governor Kerry Hardy offered to send the National Guard to quell the violence, but the local sheriff declined, believing he could handle the situation. The mobs eventually dispersed, but on January 7th, they returned to finish the job, reducing the town to ashes, except for the home of John Wright, the white general store owner who had helped many black residents escape. In the aftermath, a special grand jury and prosecutor were appointed to investigate the violence. However, despite the horrors witnessed, the jury claimed there was insufficient evidence for prosecution. The surviving citizens of Rosewood, living in fear, never returned to their once beloved town. The story of Rosewood began to fade into obscurity. It wasn't until 1982 that the story of Rosewood resurfaced. Journalist Gary Moore's series of articles for the St. Petersburg Times brought the tragedy back into the national spotlight. The surviving victims, many in their 80s and 90s, led by descendants like Arnett Doctor, came forward and demanded restitution from the state of Florida. The Rosewood Massacre, once shrouded in silence, was finally acknowledged as a dark chapter in American history. The Rosewood Massacre serves as a stark reminder of the racial violence and injustice that plagued the United States during the Jim Crow era. Its memory stands as a testament to the importance of confronting and addressing the past, even when that past is painful in the pursuit of justice and healing.